The world of Pokemon. A vast, beautiful world full of hundreds of unique and colorful You know what Pokemon is, I'm not explaining it. Hi, I'm Hoenn, and I spent ages trying to write a top 10 favorite Pokemon and top 10 least favorite Pokemon set of videos, and well, I got bored and fell asleep at my desk. So I decided to spice things up a little bit, and I present to you today Hoenn's favorite and least favorite Pokemon from every generation. How is this any different from a top 10 list? Well, not that different to be honest, but hey, at least we know all 9 gens will be getting love in this video. Obviously, I want to state that the opinions expressed in this video are objective fact, my personal opinion, and if you disagree, then feel free to tell me your opinion in the comments below, or make your own video in the same style if you really want to. And also, I apologize if I list one of your favorite Pokemon as my least favorite. It's not personal. Please don't hate me. I'm not sorry if I list your least favorite as a favorite, though. Pokemon Red and Blue, they sure are the first generation of Pokemon, alright. We actually have a well-rounded lineup here with some really cool Pokemon and also some straight dog shit. Out of the OG 151, which of them ranks out on the top as my favorite? Well, let's talk about pseudo-legendary Pokemon and Dragonite. It's Dragonite. Dragonite seems kinda tame compared to his brothers in the pseudo-legendary gang, but a lot like the rat that rules his franchise, he's got a design that works because it catches a perfect balance between cool and cute. And I know with how much of a radical bad boy I am, it's probably hard to believe, but I have a soft spot for an honest, only wants to do good hero type character, and Dragonite is known for using his incredible flying speed and strength to guide lost sailors to shore and rescue people who are drowning. It has unmatched destructive power, it can fly really damn fast, and it can shoot lasers out of its mouth, and it wants to only use that power to help. Dragonite is just Superman if he were a Pokemon. So, for being a good-natured badass dragon, he is easily my favorite Pokemon of Gen 1. Anyway, it's time to get salty because it's time for my least favorite Pokemon of Gen 1, and I admit it's a bit of a weird one. Gen 1 is a gen with a large amount of stinkers, but my least favorite is Magneton. Okay, so let's get the obvious gripe out the way. I don't care for evolutions that just add another one of the Pokemon, but I'd be lying if I said that was the main reason I hate this Pokemon. The main reason is because whenever I run into this polar-pointing geezer in the games, it's always getting Paralyze Hex on me. Now, I know multiple electric types are guilty of this, but the Magnemite line is just so common in so many Pokemon games that, meaning no matter what game, there will always be a Magneton waiting to Thunder Wave my ass so hard that you can call me Finger 11. Even though they can do it just as easily, I don't hate Magnemite or Magnezone. This is probably mainly because those two actually have pretty inspired and cool designs, while Magneton is a copy-paste, so yeah, I take my previous statement back. The design is a big part of the reason I hate it. Fun fact, by the way, the first Magnemite I ran into in Scarlet and Violet paralyzed me on the first turn! And I get the joke with the design is it's a magnet Pokemon, so its evolution is it's just sticking itself to other ones, but I still don't like it. So, Gen 2 up next, and honestly, the Mon selection here is actually really solid. Putting all of Gen 2 in the tier list, there's maybe like 4 Mons that would go into a low tier. So, my favorite Gen 2 Pokemon, which one wins? Here's a hint for you. Rock, paper, kick-ass bug type! Scizor is my favorite Pokemon from Generation 2, and I'm pretty sure it's immediately obvious why. Just look at him, he's so rad! Scizor is a shiny red mantis-like creature with chain chomps for hands and a death stare that cuts Crystal Onyx. I remember a Scizor I used to have back in the Sun and Moon days, a female Scizor named Ryuko after the main character from my favorite anime. If you know, you know. What a badass Scizor she was, by the way, armed with Bullet Punch, X-Scissor, Swords Dance, and False Swipe. Scizor immediately shut down any notion of bug types being lame or weak, and it does it with style, which is why it's my favorite Pokemon of Gen 2. Now, as for my least favorite, it was hard because, again, Gen 2's lineup is pretty solid, but one came to mind pretty quickly. Snubbull. Simply put, ew. Grand Ball I can tolerate because it's leaning into looking like a rabid dog, but Snubbull is aiming for an so ugly it's cute look that just doesn't look appealing in any way to me. This Pokemon just looks plain hideous, and while its dex entries seem to imply it's quite friendly, I don't trust that face one bit, making Snubbull my least favorite Gen 2 Pokemon. Grand Bull is fine though, I guess. Gen 3 up next, and this is actually my favorite generation. More so because of the region itself than the Pokemon lineup, but you know, what it is what it is. The Pokemon lineup here is actually still really solid, and we've got a wide range of truly awesome Pokemon here, but among this group, my favorite is definitely Mudkip. What is this, 2007? Yes, my favorite Gen 3 Pokemon is my very first starter in the series, Mudkip. I like Swampert and Marshtomp as well, but there's something so inherently charming about Mudkip on its own. First of all, he's based on an Axolotl, and who doesn't love Axolotls? Second of all, just look at him, he's so funny and adorable, and he's just great. As mentioned earlier, he was also my first starter of my first game, being Sapphire version. What was Kid Me supposed to do? Pick the other ones? But Mudkip is blue! I like blue. In my original Sapphire version, I actually had a hard time evolving it because look at him, he's so cute. Not that Marshtomp isn't, and Swampert, for his aggressive looks, according to the Pokédex, he seems like a pleasant enough fellow, liking to chill out at beaches and stuff, but Mudkip just has so much charm on his own. Look at him, he's just so friend-shaped. I know the meme is dead and buried and decayed, but do I like Mudkips? Yes. Yes, I do. So who in Gen 3 sucks the hardest? Well, ladies and gentlemen, behold the abomination to nature that is Pelipper. Like, what even is the anatomy of this thing? What's going on with its eyes? Why is the beak 80% of its body? How? A friend of mine told me that Pelipper makes him think of the baby delivering stork, and honestly, if I saw this thing carrying babies, I wouldn't assume it was delivering children to their parents, I would assume those babies were its prey. This bird is so damn goofy looking that Disney is getting ready to send a cease and desist. Should've been more of a Willy Pelipper, and oh yeah, maybe you also, you know, shouldn't suck. Gen 4 now, and this is a really popular gen that's a close favorite to a lot of people. I think it's okay. I see why so many people love it though, there's a lot of cool stuff in Sinnoh, like deep lore, the most godly legendaries to date, good music, Cynthia as a character in general, and of course, some of the most iconic Pokemon to date, and my favorite is a bit of a no-surprise pick. It's not some sleeper hit that no one talks about. Yeah, I'm shallow and pick one of Gen 4's most popular. It's Mother Muckin' Lucario, baby! So they made a Pokemon version of Goku. Yeah, how do you expect people not to go crazy for this mon? Fun fact, before Gen 6, Lucario was actually my favorite Pokemon in the whole series, and he appears in every single damn game since Gen 4 for a reason. People can't get enough of this guy. He has one of the best movies, he got to be Gen 4's representative for Smash Bros, and just... Oh my god, he's so goddamn cool! It also helps that he's blue, which is my favorite color. As for my least favorite, again, no real surprises here, it's Licky Licky. Lickitung, I can give a pass to, because at least he looks like a reptile, which tend to have long tongues, and it makes sense, but this is just... Why? He's not a lizard anymore, he's just a blob. But hey, he's a blob with a full Wi-Fi signal. Anyone who gets that reference is a real one. I want to know, who thought this was a good way to build on Lickitung? Like, surely you could have kept the lizard aspect a bit more, gave him a little bit of chameleon DNA? Anything interesting at all? Also, he evolved by having rollout. The significance? He's fat, I guess. Gen 5 now, and ooh, this was an interesting gen. Once considered controversial, it's now arguably one of the most beloved in the whole series. And it's my personal second favorite behind Gen 3. I actually think Gen 5 is better put together than Gen 3 as games, but I just like the Hoenn region a lot. Anyway, my favorite of Gen 5 is hard to say actually, because honestly there's a lot of really cool ones, but ultimately, I settled on Bishop. I've said it on this channel before, I love samurai stuff, and well, look at this dude. A bandit samurai, practically made of blades. This guy might literally be one of the edgiest Pokemon ever made. Oh, you studied the blade? You fool! I am the blade! He's had a striking effect on me ever since I first saw him as a kid, and I thought he was cool even before the weeb phase hit me in my teenage years, and he remains a favorite now. I will say, I do love his new evolved form, King Gambit, as well. It has a katana mustache! But Bishop is the OG, and I love him. Now, while Gen 5 is known for its bangers, it's also known for its stinkers. The two main punching bags for this are usually Vanillux and Garbodor, but I'm gonna be real. I actually don't mind these two. I'd go as far as to say I actually kinda like them. Nah, the real top stinker for me is also a popular pick for the worst in Gen 5, Simisear. Now, I think the only elemental monkey I like is Simisage and its Leaf Pompadour, but Simisear particularly falters because it's a fire monkey Pokemon that came a generation after a legitimately badass fire monkey Pokemon, so it has the disadvantage of being compared to its predecessor and having a shadow to sit in. Simisear is just plain bland, forgettable, and that's why he's my least favorite of Gen 5. Moving on to Gen 6, and honestly, this may be my favorite roster of Pokemon. Interestingly though, it holds both my favorite and my least favorite Pokemon. It doesn't have that many Pokemon in it, it's definitely the smallest roster in the franchise, but hey, it's not the size that matters, it's how you use it. And this dex is bringing some quality. So, I hope you aren't bored of blatant fan favorites that everyone loves, because there isn't a better Pokemon out there for me than Greninja. Yeah, my favorite Pokemon is statistically the most popular Pokemon in the whole franchise. What of it? He's a frog? Ninja! I don't know what other convincing you need. Also, again, he's blue. His design is very clever, using his long tongue as a scarf like an anime ninja would wear. That thing must get very dry. And it combines the anatomy of a frog with a ninja-style silhouette to create this unique design. Now, it's common fact that at this point, that Gen 6 starters are based on RPG classes, Knight, Mage, and Rogue. And during my Dungeons & Dragons days, I had a rogue addiction. I wouldn't play any other class, so naturally the Froakie line appealed to me in that way. Froakie is also the only Pokemon I shiny hunted, spending 2 weeks of my free time hatching eggs every opportunity I got. And eventually, I broke through and got that shiny Greninja in Ultra Sun. Only for it to be revealed a week later that Pokemon games won't allow every Pokemon in the franchise to be transferred to new games anymore, so that kinda bites, but hey, that Greninja is still sitting in my Ultra Sun copy to this day. And do I even need to talk about Battle Bond Greninja? So yeah, Greninja is the GOAT for a reason, and he's the most popular Pokemon ever made for a reason, is my favorite of Gen 6, and is my favorite of all time. So, who's the worst of the worst in Gen 6 anyway? I used to quite hate Klefki, but I kinda turned around on the guy. Binacle looks kinda gross. Carbink is kinda bland and pointless, but it's inoffensive, so who could possibly be the worst? What the Golduck am I looking at? So, Aromatisse has got to be one of the dumbest looking Pokemon in the whole franchise. Like, what actually am I looking at here? I'll tell you. A perfume bottle, mixed with a can-can dancer, and a Plague Doctor? A Plague Doctor Pokemon sounds like an inherently badass concept. How do you mess it up this badly? I see a lot of people also give flack to Aromatisse's version counterpart, Slurpuff, but I'm gonna say it. Slurpuff is adorable. Y'all are just mean. Slurpuff doesn't hold a candle to the sheer level of dumb that Aromatisse has. I hate this thing! So anyway, on to Gen 7. Gen 7 is kind of a controversial gen if I remember correctly, but I gotta say, it's one of my personal favorites, the entire first fourth of the game being a tutorial notwithstanding. But its roster of Pokemon is alright actually. There is some good stuff here, but they also have some really bad stuff as well. But to start out with the king of the crowd, I ultimately chose to go with Golisopod. Yeah, I know, another samurai-themed Pokemon, nothing personnel kid, I must go all out, yada yada Naruto. Look at this man. First of all, it's an Isopod, which are kinda gross creatures, but also really cool looking creatures. I mean, that's a good start to go with, and then they stylize its shells to look like samurai armor. And I get its pitch black eyes are meant to be like Isopod eyes, but they also kinda look like sunglasses. It's a samurai Isopod with sunglasses. A fittingly stylish Pokemon to be the ace of the leader of my favorite evil team in the series. Team Skull Gang, yeah! Anyway, the final point of its favor is, well, I'm a big fan of the mecha anime Gurren Lagann, and Golisopod reminds me of a mech from that series a lot. Between its samurai theming and its color scheme, it kinda reminds me a lot of the mech Enki, which belongs to the rival character from that show, Viral, who also kinda looks a lot like Gladion now that I think about. Oh my god, Pokemon and Sun and Moon are the most anime games in the series. So, who's the worst Pokemon in Gen 7? I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Bruxish. It's Bruxish. Who exactly is this Pokemon for? Like, I was also considering putting Crabominable here because, look at it, but I could see the argument that he's an entertaining freak show monster, but Bruxish. Who is this Pokemon made to appeal to? Its dex entries talk about how it can use its psychic powers to make the sound of its teeth grinding echo at long distances, so whenever you're near a Bruxish, you're at risk of having your eardrums assaulted. It's a weird-ass psychedelic colored fish thing with massive lips and razor-sharp teeth. Like, what is this thing? And why was it made? Who at Game Freak cooked this? Ban him from the kitchen! Gen 8, Gen 8, Gen 8. Sword and Shield stand as my two least favorite Pokemon games in the series. They just feel very bland and by the numbers, and while they're definitely more technically functional than Gen 9, they're also just more boring. In my opinion, of course. If you like Gen 8, that's totally fine. But Gen 8 does have a few things I like, namely Toxtricity. I love all things rock music, especially punk rock, and oh hey, this is basically a dedicated punk rock Pokemon, and it's a poison type. Hey, Tox, my guy, I think you're a bit late. Roxy was a gym leader for Gen 5, who's also my favorite gym leader in the series, by the way, again because of my love for punk rock. He has two versions, one that's a traditional electric guitar, and one that's more of a bass, which is a pretty neat concept. The version you get depending on its nature. He also just looks so damn cool, the cocky stare and the lightning mohawk, and the fact that its Gigantamax is based on the act of smashing a guitar against the floor, it's just such a f***ing sick Pokemon. Put Roxy in the Gen 5 remake, even though she wasn't in Black and White 1, just to give her one of these mad lads. Now, as for the worst, there are a lot of Pokemon in Gen 8 I don't particularly like, but I think the king of stink here goes to Regidrago. Okay, so a Dragon-type Reggie has the potential to be super neat. A powerful golem made from dragon scales or something of that nature. But this is the dumbest damn thing I've ever seen. It's a red Reggie-Ball that's being eaten by an iron Charizard head. You know, I hate the Charizard pandering as much as the next grumpy Pokemon fan, but I do understand that he's a damn popular Pokemon for a reason, and that's why he keeps getting all the cool stuff, but this is just dumb. And besides, it could have been any dragon Pokemon's head. This is still a stupid design. This is just a fundamentally stupid concept, and I hate it. Not to mention, I think this Mon and Regieleki kinda mess up Regis as a group. Like, I get the Regis are based on historical ages, the Stone Age, the Ice Age, and the Iron Age, and that these two are meant to be the Medieval Age and the Modern Age, but like, these two really don't feel like they fit alongside with the rest of the Regis, so yeah. Regidrago has a dumb design that doesn't fit with the rest of the Regis at all, and so it's my least favorite Mon of Gen 8. So now, let's move on to the final gen. So, Gen 9. I did mention earlier that I like Gen 9 more than 8. That doesn't mean I think Gen 9 is good. I tried to like Scarlet and Violet, and honestly, I think these games have a lot to like about them. There's some cool stuff here, but the games are just fundamentally technically broken, and it seems with every new patch of the game we'd find some new game-breaking bug. I want to like Gen 9, and the open world is a neat idea, and the story content is some of the best we've seen in a Pokemon game, and of course, the Pokemon roster isn't too bad either. In fact, I actually had a two-way tie for my favorite. It was between Tinkaton and Ceruledge, two Pokemon from this gen I love. It was a tough choice, but ultimately the inner edgelord was calling me to pick Ceruledge, and so that's who we're going with. It's a flaming suit of armor with ghost flame swords for hands. How's that not the rawest thing you've ever seen? Yeah, it doesn't so much like it would make a good pet, but who cares? It's a knight with flame sword hands. It's just so damn cool. You don't think it's cool? I think you're just jealous you don't have sword hands, buddy. When I played Scarlet and Violet, I tried to get one of these things as soon as possible and had the perfect nickname ready as well. Mordred. If I caught a male one, it would be named after the treacherous knight of Arthurian legend, and if it was female, it would be named after one of my favorite Fate servants, who's also still supposed to be Mordred from Arthurian legend, but that's neither here nor there. His dex entries talk about how it carries the burning resentment of a swordsman who fell before accomplishing their goal. That's right, Ceruledge is an Ashen one from Dark Souls. So yeah, that's why my favorite Pokemon of Gen 9 is Ceruledge. So, out of all the Pokemon in Gen 9, which one is the worst? Well, if Ceruledge was raw because it was unapologetically cool, Bramblin is raw because it gave me salmonella. This is a bundle of grass. It doesn't even look like a living thing. I kid you not, when I first saw a screenshot of the desert area in the game and saw the Bramblins around the area, I genuinely thought they were just some regular-ass plants. They were just meant to be decoration. Then, later, when the Pokedex got leaked early, as it always does, my curious ass decided to look through and I saw Bramblin there and said out loud, "Wait, that's a Pokemon!" Its Pokedex entry states that it's apparently the result of a ghost possessing grass of all things. Yeah, sure, okay, why not? This design is lame, uninteresting, and plain lazy. I don't mind inanimate object Pokemon as long as there's something cool done with it. This This is a tumbleweed with eyes in it! The evolution isn't that much better either, and I feel like we could have done something cool with this concept and still kept the whole Pokemon that blends into the background thing. Maybe have a ghost that hides inside the tumbleweed that opens up and it almost looks like the ghost is wearing some round ball armor. That could have been cool, but nope, it's a tumbleweed with eyes. And that's why he's my least favorite Pokemon in Gen 9. So yeah, that was my favorite and least favorite Pokemon of every generation. I don't know how you feel about my takes, so feel free to tell me in the comments. If you like a Pokemon I listed as a least favorite, tell me what you like about them in the comments, and also tell me who your favorite Pokemon overall is. And if you enjoyed, I'd appreciate if you'd leave a like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'm Ramen Ronin, I make videos on whatever I feel like that day, and I'll see y'all next time.